One thing that I definitely wanted to ask you about, because when I've seen
Hmm.
you guys perform live in the area, you've done it where it's three or four guys
Hmm.
and just one microphone, and which is really impressive. I'm only, seen that from a handful of
Hmm.
bands being able to pull that kind of thing
Yeah.
off, such as like Allison Krauss and Union Station being one of
Hmm.
them. What's the key to doing that well?
Really, as rehearsal when we first began as a band after I had seen the Del McCurry band at the Carolina Theater in Durham. We really wanted to take that approach, suits and a single microphone, and we set up in a big foyer in an old Victorian house in downtown Raleigh with a single microphone, and we would record ourselves working the microphone and finding that balance of where you should stand to get picked up perfectly. And through the years, the early years, it was just a single microphone. And then, um, after 6 years of that and playing at the poorhouse and loud venues in Raleigh, we gradually added another microphone lower to pick up the instruments a little better. And then we did some work with a Norwegian artist, Jonas Fjeld, for 3 albums worth of touring, and he added another microphone, so then it was a vocal mic and two microphones down low for the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, we've been a band for 20 years, and if you know anything about musicians and tech savvy people, they always continue to evolve
Mm-hmm.
in their performance style. And from that, we took those microphones and moved them farther away, and now to where we are today, which everyone sings on their own microphone and everybody's got their own microphone for their instrument. But we really look back when we're playing today with everybody separated, we still perform from that single mic perspective where you feel like you're walking in when you're playing your part. Everybody doesn't just play as loud as possible all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You still feel like you're mixing yourself by the veracity of how you play. So it's a valuable technique. I would tell any band, from the most rock and roll band to the most acoustic folky band, to experiment with that and try it live, because it really will teach you how to perform.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm curious also because one of the techniques I saw you guys do is, different members would lean back
Hmm.
at different times to kind of fade their
Yeah, yeah.
instrument or their vocal
Hmm.
at the time. Do you still kind of do that even though you have an individual mic, or?
Yeah, you still perform as if you're getting a little closer to be a little louder,
Mm-hmm.
or get a little further away to be a little quieter. It's just such a subtle technique. If you watch a band like Del McCurry, or there's a lot of young bands that still use the single mic technique, and it really is a group effort at creating this mixed sound that's going out in the world. And it harkens back to when they first made cylinder and wire recordings. You yelled into a big cone, and that was
Mm-hmm.
your mic. And if you were closer, you were louder, and your relatives might hear you on the radio. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I'm curious, do you think you guys are better at, let's say, harmonizing and things like that because of that
Oh,
experience?
definitely. If you look at the Everly Brothers as an example of proximity and singing harmony live,
Mm-hmm.
the way they set their microphones up, they had these two microphones, but they were super close together on the stage. And when you're singing harmony, you really want to hear those voices mix in the air before you put them into technology or microphones or whatever it is. You don't want to just sing and have it coming back and just trying to figure out that harmony. Singing together for, the 12 to 15 years we did it that way of performance, really cemented our harmony blend. And
Mm-hmm.
so we can still do that separated now, but it is such a valuable thing. If you look at footage of Crosby, Stills, and Nash overdubbing harmonies. They're singing on a single mic because that's how you get the blend. Same with the Beach Boys or anyone.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it speaks to, I think that technology is fabulous out there, but I think there's too much of a reliance on technology. At least, you meet a lot of musicians who are like, well, they'll fix it in the mix, or the
Yeah.
engineer will take care of that. And so, I'm fascinated by the fact that you went down that road to like give yourself that kind of education.
Yeah, it's just valuable experience, and there's no fooling the ears when something's real.
And then in terms of your background and such, I also found it interesting that you were not raised on bluegrass music. You came from, a radio-oriented, classic rock-oriented background.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, how do you think that comes out in the music that you write?
I mean, I'm writing from a world's perspective, not a kind of classic. Yeah, I mean, it's all in what your experiences are in the world, and that's what people write. They say write what you know, and if you know more things, you can write from a broader palette, and that's really the goal of any person that's trying to create in this society. I write from being a U2 addict and a REM addict and a Jimi Hendrix aficionado and in love with Led Zeppelin. I write from all that stuff. But then when I found the music of Old and in the Way in college and John Hartford and Bill Monroe, it just gave us this lens to filter all this musical knowledge through, and that's really how the band subsisted for so many years and so many albums, was just filtering our modern experience through the lens of these older instruments, if you will, and style of performing and harmony work. And it's just recently that we've kind of broadened our palette somewhat, if you will. And our banjo player, Chandler Holt, for 20 years has stepped down and retired to spend more time with his family. I mean, how selfish can you get? So we've added drums now, and it's really been a fun experience to just broaden that palette a little bit and bring a little bit more rock and roll and Americana styles into what we do, because that's kind of a perspective we've always written from.
Yeah, which brings us to your latest album, Sharing the Covers, which I think is one of, if not the best titles for a covers album I've ever heard.
Thank you.
So, first off, with that album, what was the most challenging of those songs to convert to a CCL style?
It really wasn't a challenge to do any of those songs. I think the hardest one for us to do was the John Lennon song, Watching the Wheels, just because it has some small idiosyncrasies. He was such a seasoned writer when he wrote that song that it has this little tricks. It sounds really easy, but it's got these little tricks that you have to iron out if you're going to do it faithfully. The songs in the album really came about. We were starting to do pre-production on our release for that's going to come out in 2020. And we were in a studio, microphones set up, and we said, let's record all these songs we've done through the years at live shows. People are always asking if they can get a copy of whatever song it was, the cover song we performed in the show. And we never had a place to point them besides YouTube or something like that. And we decided just to throw them all down, and we did 25 songs in maybe 2.5 days. And from that, we just culled the best performances, or the ones that had the words right, and that became the album. And the title was really an excuse for us to all get in a bed together, take that photo, because we're some close guys, definitely.
That might be more information than we needed,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that's good.
It was a fun 42-hour shoot.
All right. And you're still talking?
Yep, still,
Okay.
we're still tight. We still it's a band of brothers, and so we're still in daily contact.
Um, but yeah, because it's an interesting album in the sense that you have songs like Tom Petty's "You Don't Know How It Feels," which, you know, to the uninitiated, sounds like it could have been written to be a bluegrass song,
Yeah.
and especially if you listen to the original version. But then, you know, you're mixing in Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, you know, but it still fits. And I'm curious, what's the key to honoring the original but still making it your own?
I think in the song selection is the most important part. We only choose songs that we feel will filter through our lens appropriately. And a song like The Last Time, I mean, I'd seen the Dead play that at RFK Stadium years ago in the 90s, and I just thought it was such a cool tune. They could filter it through their lens. And then you find that all these spots for the harmonies to work, and that banjo just to take the riff um, in the head of the song is just seems so appropriate to do. I think for that band, for Chatham County, it's really easiest for us to, do almost any we can really cover anything within reason. Maybe not Donna Summer, but a lot of things we can do.
And then, I mean, obviously, you recorded these songs because these are songs that you loved, I assume, um, and you know, just wanted to perform. But I'm also curious: was there also an element of using this as a way to, one, bring more people into bluegrass music, or to expand the idea of what bluegrass music could be?
Um, I don't. I try not to get caught up in words such as bluegrass, because bluegrass used to mean something so specific, and now it all really depends on the listener and their experience with music. For some people, they think that a band like Green Sky Bluegrass is bluegrass. But if you were from Kentucky and old school bluegrass, they are the farthest thing from bluegrass. They are what some people call jam grass or new grass, and we have Sam Bush and those guys in the Newgrass Revival to thank for expanding upon that palette that bluegrass has and kind of pushing it in all new directions. We felt like at the beginning we were trying to be a bluegrass band, but we never really fit in, just for certain reasons, whether it's the songwriting or the actual proficiency of the individual instrumentalists, or like a focus on solos, because we never really did that. We tried to perform more like a pop music band, which doesn't, take long extended solos or anything like that. And so we never felt like we were bluegrass. We felt towards the end of the way the band was, to the beginning of this year, with the four of us all acoustic and banjo, that bluegrass more changed its definition to fit what we were doing. We just became bluegrass at waiting it out for 20 years. But to your question, I don't think there was any conscious decision in making this album, as far as turning people on. I think more than anything, it just spread what we do to more people, just vis-a-vis fans of these different artists, and their discovery of us through a cover song on the radio or something like that. The most interesting thing is this, in essence, is our most bluegrass album, because pretty true definition of bluegrass is a cover band. It is a band that is covering the sound that Bill Monroe created in 1946. There's no really other way around it. If you look at that, if you look at bluegrass through, that's what it is. And so we created an album of covers, put forth on these instruments, and some modern songs. I mean, it's a lot more like a Seldom Seen album, because that's what they were doing, and that's what they were doing to keep bluegrass contemporary through the 70s.
And Yeah, the music industry and well, lots of industries have a habit or an inclination to try and pigeonhole artists. They want to be able to fit a band, fit an artist into a particular box.
Yeah, yeah.
Was that ever an issue with you guys, or did you just never worry about that?
I think we worried about it at the beginning a little bit because we were trying to present ourselves as a bluegrass band. But when we started to work on, and I tried to write bluegrass songs to my best of my ability for the first couple of albums. But when we were working on the third album, and then the response we got from the third album into the fourth album, to the fourth album, where we really just, I wrote what I wanted to, and we just put it through the Chatham County line machine, and people really responded to that. And that felt a lot better than trying to duplicate or, mold our, what we were into some weird genre box. I think people just want to be able to say a word that conveys what something is. I mean, now milk is all sorts of things. There's lawsuits by the Dairy Association about what actually milk is. And people want to, they want to purchase milk, but good luck nowadays. So
That's an interesting analogy. I never thought of that.
I hadn't thought of it either. But so words are great. A great word now is Americana because it encompasses almost everything.
Yeah.
And so we feel like with the addition of drums and the stuff that's going to be on our new record in 2020, it's going to feel a whole lot more like an Americana band than you ever thought bluegrass was.
And then to switch gears a little bit, you've been lately doing a lot of performing and recording with Judy Collins, legendary singer songwriter.
Yeah.
And actually, if she only existed to inspire the song "Sweet Judy Blue Eyes,"
Yeah.
to me that would have been enough. She's done a lot more besides that, but to me that
is.
would have been enough. I'm curious, what have you learned through this experience of working with her?
She really is a force of nature when it comes down to it. She's 80 years old now. She plays almost twice as many shows as we do in a year.
Wow.
Incredible work ethic, always pushing and looking for new ideas. She did an album with Stephen Stills 3 years ago, and they toured a ton together. And this project with us and our Norwegian friend Jonas Fjeld just came about looking for something to do, and she wanted to make an album of winter seasonal almost songs, and Jonas said, let's get Chatham County Line, and she loved what we did, and it just all came together. And the album's coming out in November of 2019. We're really excited about Winter Stories, and we're going to do a ton of shows with her, and we just look forward to learning from what is kind of a master. We've seen, we haven't done that many shows with her. We've only done 2 shows with her so far. We did the work in the studio. We went to see her in Durham last month, and she is an enchantress. She gets the crowd right here, and she plays with them a little bit. She tells great stories, and she still has the voice. A lot of people don't keep their voice for that long, and she still sings in the right key and in the key the song was written and first recorded in. I mean, this is legendary stuff to have that ability through her whole life. She's also a ton of fun.
And you recorded up in Asheville, nearby Asheville,
Yeah.
and I'm curious. There's a certain vibe to Asheville. To me, I came from California. It has this Berkeley, California-esque kind of thing going on, and I'm curious. I don't know. Do you get a vibe recording up there too, or is it, just like, well, here's where a good studio was?
We've done several albums at Echo Mountain in Asheville, and it's a real, almost immersive process, and you are inspired by your surroundings. It's an incredible thing. I think Sting did an album recently in New York City that was just real New York. He put his guitar in a backpack and walked to the studio every day, and it sounds like New York City in a lot of ways. And I think when you go to Asheville and record acoustically motivated music, it just feels right. You're in the mountains, you get a tiny bit of elevation. When you walk outside and look, you see the hills in the distance and the turning of the leaves. It can't help but to inspire you.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned Jonas Feld. I'm not sure.
Fjeld.
Fjeld. I got to get that Norwegian.
Yep. Good luck.
Yeah. The work you've been doing with him. I'm curious. How. Obviously, it inspired the recording of a lot of material. What have you taken away from that experience? How has it, I don't know, changed you guys as musicians?
I think a lot of it, especially in the beginning with working with Jonas, because this is way back. I think we recorded the first album, which was a live recording, Christmas of '05, perhaps. And that's the thing. He recorded it. We were like, sure, you can record it. Then he released it. The next February, the country went nuts for it, and that kept us going back. And we've performed in every town in Norway, and we've been there for 5 and 6 week stretches. It got to the point where you're looking out the window at the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, and all you want to do is take a nap. But what we learned from him is really stagecraft and night after night performing and just an ease of performance. Wherever you are as a performer, you really need to look at the stage as your living room, and people are just there watching you perform, and it's just an extension of everyday life. It's not. It is put on a pedestal, but you don't really have to live that way. You can just be yourself, and I'm sure I'm sure late night talk show hosts feel the same way. When I'm watching Stephen Colbert or something, it feels like he's in his living room. It took him a while to settle into it, but it doesn't feel like he's nervous or in shock or worried about what he's going to say. You're just talking, And when we perform now, after thousands and thousands of shows and thousands of hours on stage, and picking things up from other bands, other musicians, guys like Jonas and the way he performs and holds an audience in his hand. You're just in the living room and you're playing some songs for your friends.
Okay. And so now that you've, say, done shows after Jonas, and I know you're going back to Norway and such, I'm curious, did other people notice a change in your demeanor on stage or performance?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe. The phone keeps ringing for us to play shows, so that's good.
And then throughout all these experiences, you mentioned you've been working on an album that's coming out next year. How has your work and your writing on this album been different from previous albums as a result of all these really interesting experiences with Jonas, with Judy Collins?
I'm not sure. I think working with elder artists like them, that really inspires you to keep going, to keep at it and keep getting inspired by the things around you. Don't settle for what people might have liked that you've done in the past and try to recreate that in some way. Keep pushing yourself and keep exposing yourself to other forms of media, music or film or the arts or stage, whatever it is. Use it and soak it up, because that's what the greats did. Bob Dylan as Robert Zimmerman, as Judy will tell you, was terrible, and he went away and had a sabbatical and went and sequestered himself in someone's home that had a ton of recordings, and he listened to every single recording, and he learned a million songs, and he came out the better for it, and the world benefited. And so you just have to keep pushing yourself and keep working. Sugar Ray Leonard said you can't take a bow today for what you did yesterday, and you have to keep pushing with that sort of mentality.
And then also interesting example with Bob Dylan, just because the whole Dylan goes electric
Yeah.
when he fairly angered a lot of people by just leaving the acoustic folky vibe behind
Yeah.
in a way. That quite a brave move, I would say.
A brave move, motivated really because he wanted to be cool. I mean, like the dudes with the electric guitars were the cool guys at that moment. And I think the reason the audience was really upset was because when Dylan was playing acoustic and harmonica and was on, it is amazing. It's unparalleled. And so he's just taking that away. It's like if, you know, Leonardo da Vinci all of a sudden wanted, I'm not painting with paints anymore. I'm going to paint in this new medium. Like, well, we can't have any more Mona Lisas, can we please? And so he went electric. He still does acoustic stuff sometimes, but if you go and look at his show now, the dude still plays. He works super hard. He plays, 80 shows a year or something, and the show is awesome. People complain about it, but you're complaining because you have preconceived notions about what the show should be. And if you let go and just let music be what it is, the dude is still putting forth amazing material night after night, and that's undeniable.
Yeah. And then, kind of along similar lines, it's a brave thing to go out in the world and to say I'm going to be a professional musician, and say I'm going to make it as a professional musician. I was curious, especially with you guys doing with your style, very, let's put it this way, not pop, not necessarily, trendy.
Yeah.
How much of that was, I'm going to be brave? How much of it was, well, I'm up for taking a chance? And how much of it was just, you know what, I can't help but perform this way, write this way, you know?
For us, it was really happenstance. We started playing together in this bluegrass style. We'd play out at shows. More people came to the shows. We started to make albums. People responded to them. We just kept doing what we were doing on the front porch at night when you got home from work, just because we enjoyed doing it, and people responded to it. One of the benefits of us just playing around a microphone and just the four guys was we toured for 10 years in a Honda Odyssey, and we had 2 hotel rooms. I mean, it's a budget thing that you don't really think about when you're not going out and planning that, but at the end of the day, it let 4 guys do that as their living and make a living doing it, and gave you time to write and gave you time to go in the studio. And that's really the thing that propelled the band for so many years, is because it just worked financially. And people talk about supporting the arts nowadays and album sales. We still sold albums back then, and I don't know if we would have made it if people bought albums like they do now back then, because selling those CDs at the merch table propelled us down the road many nights, and it's an invaluable asset. But to speak to playing in a mainstream format, I believe that there are music fans out there, almost cultish in every town, that really appreciate certain styles of music. And bluegrass is a great example of a music that there's a lot of dudes that have a mandolin or a banjo, and they play with their buddies, and they want to go out and see what the band coming through town that does that does. Or they want to learn the instrument from someone. I mean, jazz is quite similar. You have practitioners of the idiom of whatever the genre is that will go out and see a band just because they do that too. And it's a powerful thing that also, you know, kept food in our mouths for many years. So we do not look that gift horse in the mouth in any way. It was a great thing for many years.